When you take a look at Donald Trump taking back the White House and you think about only 4 years ago, you couldn't even bring up Donald Trump in the workplace. You couldn't even bring up Donald Trump in public or fear retribution or people doing crazy things or saying crazy things. But take a look at it now. Everybody's talking about it. And why are they doing that? It's the greatest comeback story in political history. You're going to see a lot of people that are going to give their thoughts and commentary on where this story ranks. And it got me thinking about comeback stories. It got me thinking about, why do we like comeback stories so much? Why do we love in America to build up and define a character and look at them as a hero, then rip them down, and then glorify them again? Like, what is it about our obsession with doing this? And it made me think about my favorite movies, where my favorite character, or in a movie where a character did something and he was wrongfully accused, or he was wrongfully, treated, or people persecuted the character. And then they went through this rise, they went through this fall, and then they stood back up again, and we get those goosebumps, and we get excited, and we love comeback stories, and we love them in sports, and we love them in politics, and we love them in movies. And I started ranking. I had to rank them. I was like, well, what are the best stories ever when it comes to comeback stories? Because I just love the story of Donald Trump. I love the story of the comeback. It's so much above a Republican or a Democrat story. It's a story about perseverance and fighting and going through all branches of the government and going through all forms of media and the way people feel about you, talk about you. And I think it could give people hope. I think it could give future Democrats hope. I think it could give future Republicans hope. I think it could give people all around the world hope that it doesn't matter what people are saying about you at that time. All that matters is what happens in the end. And these are some great stories. So I wanted to share a couple with you. I've got a couple from sports, and I've got a couple from the world. So I've got a top 3 in sports, and I have a top 3 in world stories, and top 5 movies. I'm going to start off with my sports. So my number 3 is Kobe Bryant leading the United States Redeem team in 2008. We even made it a team campaign within my organization. And the reason I share that is because Kobe Bryant had been on the top and won those titles and was chastised for so many different things, and rightfully so. Maybe it's his relationship with his partner, Shaquille O'Neal, or maybe it was what he was accused of doing in his personal life and what took place there, or the fact that the Lakers weren't winning after he pushed out his sideline, and all those different stories. But for him to come back and help lead the team and teach LeBron the work ethic and be the adult figure for the basketball team was a great story. And Netflix has a documentary, 2008 Redeem Team story, if you want to check it out. Number 2 was Tiger Woods winning the Masters. The last time when Tiger Woods won the Masters, oh my gosh. My stepdaughter at the time said, "This is the first time I've seen you cry." And I remember watching it, and I was glued to it. And I'm not a golfer. I appreciate golf stories, but I'm not a golfer. And I was glued to the story. And the fact Tiger Woods looked untouchable for so long. And obviously, we know he went through a bunch of stuff in his life, and from everything. And he was at the top, and then he was at the bottom. And for him to come back and win that Masters, there were more people celebrating that story than even his original wins, even when he was dominating with all the other original majors that he had, because that gives him hope. It gives him a comeback story. When he was walking down the green, and I don't say all the right terminology, I'm sorry for the golf fans, but he was walking down and he had all those people following him and looking at him and high-fiving and cheering. Listen, I know that they were after his story. I know that they love the Tiger Woods story, but it's bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. It's redeeming things, and it's giving redemption. And it's feeling redeemed. It's feeling forgiven for maybe things that you've gone through yourself and past failures that you've had. Number 1 is 2016 LeBron James and the Cavs. I'm sorry. I have Michael Jordan as my GOAT. So in case you go down this path, I have LeBron number 2. Okay, I have Michael number 1, I have LeBron number 2. But the 2016 comeback story, down 3-1 in the finals, it wasn't just that you came back 3-1. Although that is amazing in and of itself. It's just the fact the team that you did it against and the quality of the team on the other side with the Warriors, I believe that they were the better team. But sometimes LeBron counts as like two players. It's almost like you were a playground and you were picking players, and you get a chance to pick. If you pick LeBron, the other team gets to pick two. It just seems to be that way. And although that this is not a clear argument, and I am not saying this definitively, but casually or loosely, I will say that the 2016 championship counts as two rings. That one was just that important, and it was that good, and it was the greatest comeback story, especially for the city that had never won, and the fact that LeBron was from that city. I don't know if a story like that could get replicated again, so that's the greatest story. Now, top five movies. I've got number 5, Shawshank Redemption. I believe many of the rating agencies has this as the number 1 movie all time, if you're a movie person. But Shawshank Redemption and the character Andy Dufresne for going into prison and how he was wrongfully accused and his story in prison and what he did in the end and the faces, the face on the warden. You got to watch it just for the face. And the story had a big turnaround and a big redemptive story for a character that you thought was down and out and could never come back, and did. Number 4, I've got Count of Monte Cristo. Count of Monte Cristo. Amazing story about feeling like you have nothing to live for, nothing to hope for, feeling like everything was taken away, and what you can do non-violently, okay, to the individuals and to the story to redeem yourself. And even though he's still a flawed man, like we all are flawed, we are all sinners. And sometimes in our redemptive story, we become a little bit nasty at times. We could become vindictive. We could become, aha, I'm going to get you. And what we have to do is we have to put that grace in our heart as much as possible and make sure that we're forgiving and reconciling when we can, but that takes two people. But forgiving is most important because that only takes one person. But anyways, Count of Monte Cristo, great story. Number 3, Cinderella Man. Cinderella Man probably will get me emotional 5-6 times in the movie alone. And I could tell you every single time that it does, because it's about somebody wanting to fight for their family. It's fighting for their family and what they're willing to do to make sure that their kids during the Great Depression, a boxer specifically, based on a true story, played by Russell Crowe. Great movie, Cinderella Man. I could do an entire message on each of these movies, but it's a great story if you care about your family, especially if you love your spouse, if you have children, if you feel like you've been dealt a bad hand, maybe you feel physically down, maybe you've had a disability, maybe you've had something outside of your control that's held you down. I think you're going to love that movie. Top 2, number 2, Gladiator. And this is, I guess, me officially taking Gladiator from my number 1 movie position of all time. Gladiator for my entire life has been my favorite movie. And it's been a 1A and a 1B. It's been very close. Both of them for similar reasons. Something the character has to fight through. The character has something to prove. Character has to make sure that they redeem something in their life, and they were terribly mistreated. And we're fighting for the underdog, comeback story. Gladiator is my number 2, which puts Tombstone number 1. And Tombstone has typically been my second favorite movie of my life. But the more and more, I guess every birthday that you have, your perspective can change, and you are free to change your opinions. And so if several years later I'm saying something different, you're free to have an opinion change. But at this stage of my life, I would tell you that Tombstone is the greatest story that has to do with redeeming qualities and finishing what you started and fighting for your family as well. But I have all these movies are absolutely amazing. Finally, these are 3 stories in world history that it's really hard to rank. I would have to say first and foremost that if you're going to rank stories about redeeming qualities, I guarantee you there's a couple hundred countries in the world. I'll bet you that there's amazing stories in all of these countries that I don't even know about. And I'm not that great of a student of world history. I know some basics, but I'm not that great of a student to know that the stories that pertain to my country are not just as important to somebody else in their country. And so I don't know the other stories around all the world, but I'll tell you this, these are my 3. I think that they're the 3 biggest stories in world history, okay, as far as comeback stories. And number 3 is Donald Trump's presidency. This is the number 3 story all time, to me. And the reason that I say that is because on the biggest stage, and that is the United States of America, with the most attack that I have ever seen for a political candidate. I have never seen a political candidate attacked as much as this. I don't know if that's the truth or not, but at least in modern times, maybe you go back to the original times of Abraham Lincoln and some of the original founding fathers, it was very divided, but the amount of technology, the amount of money, the amount of hate that's found on all sides at times, I'm really glad, and I hope and I pray, just like I prayed when Obama became president, or Joe Biden became president, or George Bush became president, I pray that the president is the president for both sides of the country and not just their side of the country. And I think that Donald Trump's going to do a great job, and my thoughts and my prayers are with him. What an amazing story, and congratulations to the entire Trump family. Number two, the United States defeating Britain. The United States defeating Britain. Revolutionary War, how we became a country, the fact that the United States of America was founded on these documents, and these documents are so short. And all these other countries around the world, they've made several different creeds or doctrines or constitutions, and the fact that ours is the longest living one. And that's so amazing because it seems like we're so divided at times, but the United States of America is so beautiful that we declared our independence. And we wrote on a document to the number one world power. And we said, no more. We're going to have representation in local government. We're going to be able to control our tax rates, and we're going to be able to form our own militia. We're going to be able to take care of ourselves. We're going to be able to self-govern. And what a revolutionary concept that was for the Revolutionary War. And you're telling this to the number one world power who has dominion over you, or so they thought. And definitely militarily they did. And I remember reading that if you were to see on the horizon the British ships coming in and crossing and coming into the colonies, that one ship had more ammunition than all 13 colonies combined. And they had many ships. And these guys were completely outnumbered. They fought in the sticks and the trees, and many of these are our ancestors. And wow, I'm so impressed. And so the fact that the United States of America said, nope, we're going to declare our independence. Okay, we're going to make our own constitution, and we're going to follow this constitution, and we still are. That's the second greatest story in world history. And number one, you know what number one is. The number one is the story of Jesus Christ and the resurrection. And for Jesus to come to the earth and documented, whether you are a believer or not, I am a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I think Jesus is the number one source of joy in the world, and the only way to true joy. That's my position. But the story of prophecies for centuries, people prophesizing that something was going to happen that did. And for somebody to walk the earth for 33 years and then to show grace and forgiveness and to be perfect, even in the eyes of persecution and from all forms, from all sides, even from within. What a great story. The fact that he would wash the disciples' feet, the fact that he showed love and grace, the fact that he said to love one another and to treat your neighbor as you'd want to be treated like yourself. I've seen many people when they have the, what would Jesus do, WWJD, and it's so hard because you feel like you always fall short. You feel like you always fall short. And Jesus is the example. That's the example that we have to be like. And we could be Jesus-like without being Jesus. And we have to remember that we're made in his image. And so if we're made in his image, who are we not to shine? Who are we not to thrive? Who are we not to get ahead of ourselves? And we often sometimes we'll talk about the ego, and we'll talk about the materialism, like, oh, you want a nice house or you want a nice car. I thought you said you're Christian. And I've struggled with these things. And sometimes you feel like maybe your personal ambitions go out of line with what you're asked to do for God. And so you feel like you're selfish, or you feel like you're acting for your own personal desires and intentions. Even when people ask me, you want to be the president? And I say, yes, I would love the honor to be the president of the United States of America. I would love that honor. I would love to be the ability to serve. And I would love to think that my peers would select me for a position like that. That is outside of being a Christian and outside of being a husband and a father. That is the greatest level of service that I would love to perform for my country. But that takes a lot of work, and that takes a lot of people believing in you, and you have to overcome a lot And you have to show a lot of grace and forgiveness, because how you wield power tells exactly who you are. They say when you get a lot of money or you get a lot of power, that your true character is revealed. And when I think about the comeback stories and about fighting for the little guy and how important that is to me and to the people that are around me, I want to be a part of something great. And I'm so glad to be a part of the United States of America. I'm so glad to carry the torch for the Christian faith. I'm so glad to be an entrepreneur and to be able to teach people how to be successful. I'm so glad that I get to be a man in the United States and that I don't have to deal with some of the conditions that are happening around the world. I do my best not to be a victim, and sometimes we fall into victimhood mentality, and it's common because we're human, and sometimes you'll feel sorry for yourself, and sometimes you'll get down. And we have to keep perspective and remember what many of the men and women from around the world are dealing with on a regular basis. And we have so many freedoms and in the Bill of Rights. We have so many awesome opportunities here in our country. And I feel grateful. I feel very grateful. I feel grateful to be married. I feel grateful that a woman loves me. I feel grateful to be able to father 2 children, and to take care of my 2 stepchildren, and to have 4 kids and be responsible on a daily basis. And there's a lot of days that you don't feel good, and there's a lot of days that you feel very low. These comeback stories are amazing, and they're amazing because we want to feel how the end feels. But in all these movies and all these stories and all these sporting events that I told you about, there was a lot of arguments, a lot of pain, a lot of tears, a lot of blood, a lot of frustrations, a lot of hate, a lot of ugly things, depression, anxiety, probably addiction, abuse, so many things that people go through to get to these stories. And so if you really want to feel how the end feels and get those goosebumps and feel that championship feeling, there's a process that we have to go through that is not going to be fun. And how we keep our mind throughout that process is going to determine everything. So when you watch videos like this, or when you read the books, or I always recommend going to the Bible, because the answers are all in the Bible for everything that you're looking for. But if you need to be inspired through sports, there are so many great sporting stories. If you need to be inspired through film and cinema, there's so many great movies that you could watch. Or if you want to study history, world history, or the United States history, there's so many great stories that could inspire you. So regardless of if you're at your start, if you're at your rise, or if you're at your fall, or if you're recommitting to get back on track and get redeemed to get back on track to go out there and achieve something great, I hope that this helps you guys out. And on your pathway to being a better leader, a leader for life, we want to go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you like this content. Share it with others, leave a comment, like it. Let us know how we could help you be a better leader.